Hi, I'm Brian Sparks, the senior editor of Greenhouse Grower magazine. As we gear up for our second annual Grow Executive Summit, I'm pleased to be joined today by Chris Higgins, who is president of Hort Americas, one of the title sponsors of this year's Grow Executive Summit. Chris, welcome.
Hey, Brian, good to see you again.
Nice to see you. So as we get ready for this year's event, I kind of wanted to check in with you and a few other people just to kind of find out, what's happening in your world of this industry, some of the things that you guys are working on and how you're working with growers from across the market. So, Chris, if you maybe started by talking about some of the biggest challenges that you're seeing, growers and others in this industry facing, and then how Hort Americas has been part of helping growers and others deal with some of those challenges.
Yeah, for me, the biggest challenges really depends on which segment of the industry we're talking about. I think, all of us I think, Brian, when you and I first met each other, we were all focused on floriculture, like your beautiful backdrop that you have behind you in there. We were all focused on floriculture, and really since 2010, 2015, that's really become three different markets that I look at. We have greenhouse food production or controlled environment agriculture. We have greenhouse floriculture, and then we have cannabis, right? And there are three different markets. And I think my discussions with individuals and companies from each market, they have similar challenges, and some of them are slightly different. I think in general, one of the things that I know is plaguing a lot of our clients is labor. Access to labor, finding good quality labor, and as well the cost of labor. As we go by each of those industry segments, I know how they define that changes a little bit, but I think in general, labor is one of the things that they're all very, very concerned with. Other two areas that I think these two are tied together, and it's hard not to turn on the TV and kind of pick up on this. I think they're all tied to the economy. Now, the one thing that I find a reality in all my travels is that these economic issues are a global issue. They're not something that we in the United States are dealing with by ourselves, but whether I'm working with my new location in Canada, or I'm traveling with my team in Mexico, or I'm talking to my colleagues in the Netherlands, everybody is dealing with global economic issues and pressures. And the degree of those pressures change by country, and the exact issues that the economy is creating for each individual company changes by country. But the fact of the matter is that is a problem we're all dealing with. And then the final thing that I would say is that impacts not only us as a business because it's rising our cost, it also impacts the consumer confidence. So whether or not we're selling we're selling spring color, or we're selling holiday, poinsettias, or we're selling anything to eat or consume or enjoy recreationally, I think consumer confidence is waning, and individuals that are selling to those consumers are trying to figure out how they're going to navigate their path forward and deal with the changes in the consumer.
So, Chris, you mentioned a second ago the opening of your offices in Canada. Can you talk a little bit more about that and anything else new that you guys have planned for the coming year?
Yeah, so with us, we decided that we were going to expand. 2020 through 2022 have been very eye-opening for us. We always had this plan to expand, but those last couple of years have provided us opportunity. And one of the things we learned by visiting a lot of clients in Canada is that they really want to deal with a Canadian company. They really want to pay in Canadian dollars. It's not that they dislike working across the border, but growers, customers in general, want to make their life as easy as possible. And we felt by opening up a facility in Canada, that would allow us to provide better service, but also make it easier for the client to transact with us. So we won't change too much what we're doing and how we're doing it and their messaging, but at the same time, we're going to try to provide them with more of a localized service.
Okay.
I don't know if we'll be perfect in year one. Probably not. We'll probably make some mistakes. But the reality is I always tell my team, like, any one of us could go out of business tomorrow and growers would have no problem filling the gap with somebody provide those same services. So we need to really look at how we're providing service and make sure we're making it as easy as possible for that grower or our client to transact with us.
Sure. So along with opportunity often comes, new expectations and excitement. So can you talk about, as you get into 2023 and beyond, what you're most excited for, both for the growers that you work with and for these industries that seem to continue to expand?
Yeah, I like that, where there's chaos, there's opportunity. And I feel like right now it's very chaotic. So I feel if we do our homework, we're going to find good opportunities, right? Because it's going to cause pressure on some of our competition. People are going to change their wants and their needs. And hopefully if we're doing our job well, that's where we'll find those opportunities. One of the things that I feel oddly more confident about in 2020, going into 2023, as compared to the 20 teens, is that whether it be the pandemic or all the changes that we've had over the last 2 years, I feel that all of those challenges have made me better prepared for uncertainty. So this uncertainty that I mentioned in the beginning makes me not as nervous as what I think I would have been a few years ago when things were going better. At least on a broader scale, right? I'm not talking from a business standpoint, but just in general, you didn't feel like your life was so chaotic. And right now I feel like I'm a little bit more better prepared to deal with whatever challenges are thrown our way. I'm excited for the customers as well, because historically our industry is definitely not recession proof, but our industry has a lot of attributes that allow us to deal with recessions a little bit better than some other industries. And I think that the growers, I know in talking with a lot of floriculture growers or a lot of ornamental growers, including my brother, that they're in a place where they're prepared. Those guys that properly managed the business boom that they had in 2020, 2021, and the spring, some of them the spring this year, they're probably managed that money that they made, and they're in a position to figure out how they're going to take advantage of whatever this next change in consumer shopping patterns are.
So the Grow Executive Summit is an event that kind of mirrors what Hort Americas does. It kind of brings together growers from multiple crop segments. So what do you think that, for example, an ornamentals or floriculture grower can learn from somebody who's getting into greenhouse vegetables or cannabis, or vice versa? Are there learning opportunities from one crop segment to another?
I think there's definitely learning opportunities when you look at the different segments. If you consider what happens between seeding, quote unquote, seeding, because not all of our plants are started from seeds, but if you look at what happens from seed to harvest, in those spaces, I think there's a ton to learn from one another. Not that they're a direct, not that we're managing the crops exactly the same, or that we have the same tools, or we've invested the same amount of dollars per square foot. But I think there's a lot to learn, because when we're managing a controlled environment, there's about 9 variables that we're able to manage to some degree. And learning from each other what technology we're using, what strategies we're implementing to either reduce labor, save money, better manage the climate. There's going to be crossover, just like we see, if we look at greenhouses, we see all 3 of those different crops: food, flower, and cannabis. We see them all grown in the same structures. And they're using the same tools in different ways. And I think the sharing of that information can definitely propel all participants forward. Now, I'm not as sure when you go past harvest, right? That some of these markets are so vastly different. Sometimes there's not as much to learn. But I do think when you're in a networking opportunity surrounded by other good business people, there's always something that you can pick up in general conversations about business decisions that you can use to apply to your given situation and make you stronger.
Okay. And again, Hort Americas is one of the title sponsors of this year's Grow Executive Summit, which takes place November 30th through December 2nd in Fort McDowell, Arizona. You can go to growexecutivesummit.com to get more information. Chris, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to reconnecting in Arizona in a couple of weeks.
All right, bud. See you soon.
All right.